Every generation has their own characteristics in the way they would be open to receiving messages, marketing or otherwise. And in this specific case, what is critical are two factors. One is the places where they go to for information. Obviously, for a marketing campaign to be successful, one has to be present at those locations in terms of our messaging, in terms of the campaigns, in terms of the engagement. The other aspect is actually what appeals to that generation. There are different things that would appeal to the generation of now, and we need to make sure that our messaging, the context that we are actually providing, resonates with that. And if I may add to that, finally, the attention span has been obviously receding very quickly over the years. So to be able to then say what we need to say in the right place, in the shortest possible time, and to catch the attention is what will give the best impact. I would say the best way to connect and sell and market to these generations would be to be present where they consume their information, to be in the format that they would like to look at. For example, video has become one of the mainstays in terms of communicating the value propositions and campaigns and so on and so forth. Digital, again, is mainstay for this generation. So from that perspective, having the right context, choosing the right medium, and being present in terms of allowing them to consume the information the way they would like to, would yield the best results in terms of both sales and marketing efforts. I'd say the key technology that has been driving this change has been the internet. With the advent of the connectivity across various devices, platforms, geographies, information is now available anywhere, any place, on any device. The other technology that has actually made this very powerful is the ability to personalize using the information that is shared by the users. So from that perspective, the ability to personalize the value proposition or the context to each specific user as they come and consume that information has made this even more powerful in terms of providing the right context and relevance at that point in time. I'm tempted to say better technology, being in the generation of technologies, but clearly it's the idea, it's the context, it's that creative that catches the eye, that catches the attention, that provides the context that is the most important part of any marketing campaign or a sales proposition. Technology enables how we can take that message to the end audience, how we could actually identify the right buyer personas, how we would serve that content up to that audience and make sure that they're able to consume it when they want to, where they want to, and how they want to. But clearly, the content itself has to be relevant for them to want to engage. And from that perspective, I'd say that is more important than the underlying technology that is used to provide that content. Here today, in the connected world, customer experience is shared almost instantaneously across various platforms and technologies, be it a tweet or a LinkedIn or a Facebook. And that actually has created an environment where any bad experience would get broadcast immediately to thousands and maybe even more people globally. From that perspective, if we look at customer experience, we would need to make sure that we drive the best possible engagement with the audience, with our consumers, in order to make sure that we are completely successful in the future. There are ways of measuring this. Net Promoter Score is one such measure that has become a prominent way to ensure that our customers are receiving exactly what we have promised to deliver. From that, we can understand whether our customers would actually then be repeat purchasers, would recommend us to their friends and family, and then also continue to be loyal brand ambassadors. The first step would be to understand the expectations of the consumer or customer. Expectations are there across the entire buyer cycle, starting from the way the customer or consumer would be researching the product, the way they would like to purchase that product or service, how they use that, and then ultimately, if it's appropriate, how they will dispose of that. So across the entire cycle of awareness, purchase, right through the end of life cycle of that product, one must understand what are the expectations at each of these stages. There are various tools and technologies and research capabilities that marketeers and sellers can use to understand this, to get on top of this, and then design a full value chain that would live up to the experience that the customer is seeking. Clearly, to be competitive in today's market, one needs to have the differentiation and relevance to the audience. The brand must be able to create a position for itself in the mind and hearts of its consumers so that they can then drive the value that would ultimately enable them to have a better margin and own the price point that they would like to. The first one would be it has to be authentic. The brand promise, the brand engagement, if it's around authenticity, that would resonate well with the audience. I'd say the second part, it has to be relevant. It has to be contextual to that audience. And the third one would it have to be differentiated. It cannot just be one of the rest. So from that perspective, if we have these three constituents, I would say at a minimum, that would drive a successful brand. I think the answer lies in the question. In a differentiated market, clearly one has to have the ability to be contextual in every region, to every audience, and then be able to engage with them in the way they would like to see, keeping in mind the various nuances that are there in each and every geography. But having said that, there could be certain products and services that may not actually adhere to this differentiation or have this requirement. I'm thinking perhaps healthcare, right, which is universal. So from that perspective, there would be and there could be certain products and services that would be more universal. But when we get into specific consumer products or even in a B2B space, there is a differentiation that is required across various regions, and one must be looking at that carefully when one is creating their campaigns. Thinking local is critical to connecting with the customer, with the consumer, with their preferences, with their choices, with their interest areas. From that perspective, one has to look at not just the brand, but perhaps even in some cases the product itself, which may require modification or changes to suit the needs of the audiences in specific geographies, in specific locations. So whether it is a food product or even an automobile, there are modifications that are required to make these more apt and more suitable for the region, for the audience, And that is where the secret lies. In the B2B category, leaving aside language localization that may be required in some specific cases, I really don't see a difference in the regions, the way businesses would procure and consume services from other businesses. So from a B2B perspective, I would say the messaging, the context remains universal. In some cases, of course, there could be language localization in that market. Digital, AI, and the MarTech stack. Clearly becoming recognized in the digital transformation services. Authentic, reputation, fun. Jaguar Land Rover F-Pace and E-Pace ads.